Hi friends, so today I'm going to be showing you all how I like to take my Bible notes, and this is just with my daily devotions. I usually have a Bible plan that I choose, and if you'd like to follow along, I am doing the one from the Bible app called Do It Afraid. Personally, I like to choose Bible plans that are less than 10 days. This is just to keep myself, consistent with actually doing my daily devotions. Here we are starting up on day one. I'm starting off with the devotional, and I'm just go ahead and put it in my title. Goodnotes is the best app for me personally. I've heard of other note-taking apps for digital note takers, but this one is, simple enough for me to use, and I'm comfortable with all of the tools. So going into the devotional, I like to just read it on my own one time and then go back and take a couple of notes on things that really stood out to me. And when I'm taking those notes, I kind of like to paraphrase to ensure that I'm getting my own understanding of it and not just writing, word for word. On the day one, it's usually just the introduction to the devotional, just the overview of what we're going to be discussing. And here I'm just now getting an understanding that this one is just going to be about how I need to use my faith in order to push through uncertain times. Now, when it comes to the scriptures, I like to highlight these in bold and then just going in and also doing like the SOAP method. I don't go in, line by line, but I just kind of like to use that as a tool. So I'll just write out the scripture. I go straight to the app, copy it, paste, and then I'll just go into how it applies to me, a prayer, and then I'll sometimes even put how it's understood in my own words. First scripture is Hebrews 11:1. I'm using the NET version, and I also use my Bible to get the King James version, but for reference or for better understanding, I like to use newer translations. So the scripture says, "Now faith is being sure of what we hope for, being convinced of what we do not see." So with my annotations, I first wrote that we must believe it before we can see it, and that faith is having hope in hope. So now I'm just going and taking some extra notes, and this is just time for you to just really get to understand the scripture. Also, even when the scriptures are short, sometimes you have to unpack those and really get the bigger meaning of them. Now I'm just writing a prayer or just something that I need to do in order for this scripture to apply to my life or certain situations. And doing this allows me to really see what the scripture is really saying for me and not just reading it just to keep it in my mind and in my heart, but to actually apply it to my life. Now we're at the second scripture, and it's going to be 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, I believe. So I do the exact same thing because usually in the Bible plans, you get about 3 scriptures and then the devotional in the beginning. So I'm going in, copying and pasting the scripture, and then going in with my application, prayer, and observation. So here I am just writing how the scripture applies to me, what I'm getting out of it. I said to live by trust and not by sight, and that my blessings are coming even when I really don't see that. And the scripture reads, "For we live by faith and not by sight." And I still like to use an actual physical journal, but like when it comes to me taking notes for my Bible plans or devotionals, like using my iPad is really convenient and it allows me to just see both at the same time. And I usually use my MacBook for the Bible app and then use my iPad just for the notes, but having them side by side is just really convenient for me and it's just keeping everything more organized and together. All right, so we're back in Hebrews for the last scripture. We are in chapter 11, but this time we're at verse 6. This scripture reads, "Now without faith it is impossible to please him. For the one who approaches God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him." So for my notes, I wrote that faith is how we trust God and trust his existence. So if it's impossible to please him without faith, that means that we have to have that faith. The same faith that we believe that God is real, we have to have that same faith to apply it in our lives, to apply it to our purpose, to apply it to that miracle that we're expecting, that blessing that we're asking God for. That same faith is what's going to get us to heaven. That same faith is what's going to get those prayers answered. And that's completion of day 1. Here's my notes. This plan only had 2 scriptures, not a lot, but here is a little overview. And now I'm just going back in, highlighting things that really stuck out to me in each sentence, or back in some notes that I just really wanted to go back, just to add some reiteration. And after that, I'm just really done. Now, after my notes and after I go back and do any more annotating, highlighting, I just close out in a prayer. And then sometimes you can actually type in a reflection directly on the Bible app. But for this one, you just close out on your own. Again, this is the 6-day challenge. Do it afraid, choosing faith in the midst of uncertainty. See you guys in my next video. Bye.